Sir, you're about to see something really special.
Really thought this part of my life was behind me. Frenzy disappeared with the drinking 3 years ago. Why now? This makes no sense, and I'm right on the verge of freaking out.
Back from your life,
these people can be animals.
what you burn,
Thingy's out.
some bitter things you should never
Good cheese.
learn. Wallow through the days.
Remember, cosplay's not consent.
So here's to me. Congratulations, me. Yay, me.
This would all be so much easier if I was hammered. Hammered.
Won't be there anymore. You can take away the anger, but you leave behind the pain. It's your soul I
New ventures are always scary.
feel till I'm melting
Blah, blah, blah. Something positive and uplifting.
tomorrow, but the hurt will still remain. In your soul I'll live forever till I'm melting in.
Don't miss our new film, The Love Song of William H. Shaw, coming soon to a streaming service near you. Hey everyone, this is Cliff from Talking Pondo. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up about spoilers on the show. We do talk about the films in a certain amount of detail, so you may want to watch the film first and then come back if you're not a fan of spoilers. Also, every now and then there's a little bit of adult language, so we wanted to give you fair warning on that. We hope you enjoy the episode, and we really appreciate you listening. Welcome to Season 2 of Making Pondo and Talking Pondo. Talking Pondo is a podcast where Cliff and Marty give each other a film to watch and talk about them in detail. Some episodes will include a special guest. Making Pondo is a podcast where Cliff and Marty talk to people they have worked with and discuss their experiences on set. All right, Marty, back again.
Back at it again.
Back again.
It's one of those reciprocal episodes of Talking Pondo with me and Cliff, or would you say
Cliff and I,
or you and Marty, or
Mac and me.
Oh God, I hope we're not doing Mac and me, but
if we are, we're doing the Mystery Science Theater version. That's all I have to say about it.
So it's episode 26 of season 2, but it's episode 62 overall. So that's what I mean about reciprocal. And also another interesting thing of note today, I think it's interesting. Some of you may think it's fascinating. I don't know. We're officially rebranding now. We are now Talking Pondo from here out. Last week, you got to hear the Making with Frank Powers episode. And so now we've put the Making Pondo format into hiatus for the time being. And now it'll just be Talking Pondo, where it's just me and Cliff talking about movies, or a guest coming on and talking about movies. We'll have more and more guests.
Yes.
And although it won't be officially recognized online until season 3 starts in June of 25, the site will still say, Making, Talking, and all that until season 2 is over, because, well, we're making
it contains them.
season 2. So.
Yeah, it contains them.
So that's some minutia there, a little admin there out of the way off the bat. So remember, well, of course you do, but, let's think back to when we watched My Best Fiend.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that stands out to me from that Herner, that's as bad as the sturgeon from last week.
Werner. Sturgeon Prestis.
So it was from that Herzog documentary where Klaus Kinski's trying to walk off of the film. And he goes out there and he tells him, look, the movie is bigger than both you and me. The movie's, which to me, it's like the movie's going to be there longer than you will. So give it your all while you're there.
We're making something that's trying to maybe stand the test of time. Yeah. So yeah. Why would you phone it in?
Yeah, it doesn't seem pretentious. It's like you said, why would you phone it in? And when I watch today's films, Dr. No and Dinner in America, it made me think of that speech, and it made me very happy.
Okay.
Because I feel like these movies both kind of do that in their own way. But I'd like to start with Doctor No.
Okay. I'm excited about both. I was excited when we got both these films. I was excited. I'd never seen Dinner in America, so
Me either.
it was a total blind pick. And I haven't honestly watched a Bond picture. Like I see them when they come out, and then I kind of don't watch them again. Like and not because I don't like Bond. I like Bond a lot, especially as a kid. Like but I don't. Not that I've outgrown him. I've just seen him so much. But
well, yeah,
so,
it's been
so
there.
it was interesting to kind of go. All right, well, I haven't seen Doctor No in a while, so let's
going all the way back to 1962.
That's right. Dr. No, 1962. Rated PG. Let's see here. Directed by Terrence Young. Written by Richard Maibaum, Joanna Harwood, Berkeley Mather. Starring Sean Connery and Ursula Andrews. Let's see here. A resourceful British government agent seeks answers in a case involving the disappearance of a colleague and the disruption of the American space program. So that's your log line.
Yeah, it's see, right from the beginning they're doing Moonraker shit. There's usually 3 or 4 kind of James Bondish storylines in the movies, and one of them has to do with, fucking with something in space that's going to blow something up, right? Don't they do some variant of that so many times? But
I think early on, especially, it's like from what I remember about most of those movies, it's either about it's always about like world domination.
Yeah,
later on the movies have smaller, like it's about, well, let's take over the fucking internet, or let's take over all the but these are about like bringing the world to its knees. They're very Dr. What's his name from Austin Powers, that type of.
Oh yeah, it's laying down all those templates.
Yeah, but so the storyline is James Bond 007 is Britain's top agent and is on an exciting mission to solve the mysterious murder of a fellow agent. The task sends him to Jamaica, where he joins forces with Quarrel and a loyal CIA agent, Felix Leiter. While dodging tarantulas, fire-breathing dragons, and a trio of assassins known as the Three Blind Mice, Bond meets up with the beautiful Honey Rider and goes face-to-face with the evil Dr. No.
Yep, so many things that make up all the Bond movies are in this movie, in their early version, but they're there. One of the things that I really like about this movie and the Bond series in general is this movie's 1962, but the way that it's lit and it's shot, it feels so much more future leaning. Like, even I watched North by Northwest a few months ago, which obviously has got to be a huge Bond movie influence, but the older film stocks and the way it's lit, it looks more like an old photograph, while Dr. No looks not like it could have been shot yesterday, but some of the deep focus on people's faces and the richness of the color. They did great 4K rescans of these movies, and it just has like, no wonder it sticks, because even though it's that old, it was very future leaning with the way it was created. I think it's very easy to watch. It's slow, but it's kind of well paced though. So.
I do like the way the film looks. It's still sort of shot in that older style. But it does look good. And I agree with you. The colors look good. Jamaica looks pretty good. It's definitely got that sort of 60s film look to it. I don't know how else to put it.
Right. Ted Moore is the director of photography. Ted Moore would be DP on From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball, Diamonds Are Forever, Live and Let Die, and The Man with the Golden Gun. I think he's DP on more Bond movies than anybody. So in many ways, Ted Moore is kind of Bond.
That's very interesting. It's amazing how much the tech and just the overall spy knowledge has increased from this movie.
Yeah.
Where it's just like it's so sort of like Haikiba, it's very sort of everything's still sort of Hollywood fake, and they're not, and credit to the Bond movies. Like they're always kind of supposed to be they were always sort of tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
You know, you're not really supposed to take a lot of this stuff literally. And then the Daniel Craig movies come in and they're very literal and they're very, you know, hyper realistic violence and, you know,
and there's still some humor in those too.
Yeah, I mean, that's not gone, but it's a totally different type of
it really
action
is,
style and everything. I love how he beats her at blackjack and then he gets a date with her immediately. Like that's so James Bond,
right?
And it's like, and that's a trope early on that you get it's going to happen throughout those movies. You know? Yeah.
Is this Sean Connery's first film? Or was that like Darby O'Gill and the Little People? Or is this like the first real like big leading role for him?
Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Next week on the show.
Next
Darby
week
O'Gill.
on the, yeah. No shit. Let me think. I don't. No. He was in Let's Make Up as an extra. Let's see. Maybe you talk about maybe his first lead.
This is probably a big breakthrough role.
Probably a first lead. Yeah. But he's in movies all the way from 57 and forward.
Okay.
So this is 62. Darby O'Gill and Little People's 59.
All right.
So the scene where they force him to switch the gun, you know, like you're not carrying that gun anymore. You got to carry this one. I read that Ian Fleming kind of vacillated back and forth on that because he liked the Walther PPK as a gun, but you know, so he I don't know, he vacillated back and forth when he was writing the books, deciding on whether to switch over. And that switchover, I think, doesn't happen until later because the gun fails him in one of the books. The gun fails him and it jams and he gets rid of it and then gets this newer CIA type gun that they carry.
Well, didn't they change it in the movie where, remember when it jammed on you and they're trying to say it. This is
they talk about it. Yeah. I mean, Dr. No is like the fourth book in the series.
Yeah, at
like
least.
They do the movies out of order from the books. Because they go backwards and then do some of the books 1 and 2 and 3. I can't remember what the order is and what they are.
Yeah, like they're introducing Spectre and that's not in the book, or I remember reading something like that. I was doing some of the research, you know. Yeah. Check me on Wikipedia if you want the real story, if I didn't give accurate information there. But I think this might be book 6. I think Casino Royale is book 1.
Yeah, I think you may be right on that. The sound mix is a little whack. The Foley and the Foley is as loud or louder than the dialogue, and the music sometimes overrides all of it, especially if it's an action sequence to where it becomes that weird sort of, it reminds me of the scene in The Odd Couple where they're in the bar and it's you know, the girls go dancing and the music's going and they're having that loud talk and it's just like everything's just fighting each other for sound.
The movie was so low budget that they only had one sound editor. So the dialogue person was the same person who did all the Foley and everything.
That makes sense.
So that might have something to do with it, that they were just trying to come in on budget. And I bet future Bond movies, the sound probably improves dramatically. But still, this is decently cleaned up DTS. I wonder if watching Dr. No on an old VHS tape, and if the mix was even murkier because it hadn't been cleaned up yet.
Well, so it's the budget. It says the budget in IMDb is given in pounds, but the gross is given in American dollars. But the budget was, you could probably say, double American for the budget. So it was 400,000 British pounds, so probably 800,000 to $1 million American dollars, maybe a little bit more. But they grossed 16 million worldwide. So, I mean, that's a great start and a great return on your investment.
And then they rolled it back out with subsequent films and double features and triple features. And then I think by the time it completely finished, it was like getting close to 200 million back then.
That's amazing. That's pretty
160 million or something like that. Basically, Dr. No might be the most important film to the British film industry because it, and the Bond films that came after it, they made it possible for everything else to happen. They were such successes that they just they're the backbone. So Dr. No has a very important place in British film history for that. That's one of the things I read, and I was like, I guess it kind of makes sense because, geez, there's so many. I mean, yeah, people did it better, but it spawned so much, and all the spy movie ripoffs, and just the genre itself, and it is a game changer.
I mean, I don't know. Seems like this is one of the first big franchises from Britain that came over here and did well. Which is over to America and did well. Now that's pretty commonplace, but back then I don't think it was as much. There's a interesting scene in the movie where Bond calls that woman over who's taken their picture, and she ends up just cutting Quirrell in the face. And he's just like,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm like, did she just cut his face? And it's like, sure enough.
Yeah.
And he's just laughing. It's like, what am I? Okay.
People were tougher back then. I noticed her at the airport this time earlier. I was like, oh, yeah, she was taking a picture of him as soon as he gets off the plane. Yeah.
You're right. Absolutely. I love how Quirrell's like, oh, yeah, that island, that's the one that's got radar and is owned by a Chinese guy named Dr. No. It's fine. Like, he's a member of the Knights of Columbus, and he does a mean limbo, and he donates to kids' charities. He's fine. It's fine. We don't need to go to that island. Out of all the islands you want to check that island?
There might be a dragon over there. But...
Yeah, I have the same note. Looks good. I like the colors. Very clear shots and composition. It's not spectacular yet, like the later Bond films, because the later Bond films, they were always trying to. Oh, you remember the giant twist that from on the bridge, the bridge stunt with the car that does the twist as it jumps the bridge.
Man, the golden gun, yeah.
Yeah, so they were always outdoing themselves. But in this one, there's a scene where Bond is driving away from the Three Blind Mice, and rather than show the car go under the truck, they cut away from it and then show the Three Blind Mice veer off and fall and go over the mountain. And in later ones, they would have had a whole stunt sequence with him going under the car and somehow figuring out how to guarantee the fucking oil would have dumped out of the back of the car with a special James Bond button in his Aston Martin, and then he goes zipping under the car, and then bam, it would have been completely different because this is the first one. They haven't really gotten those action tropes and action beats down like they do now.
We don't even have Q yet. We have the armorer.
Yeah, we didn't have the friggin' Q. Yeah, and he was just like, here's your gun, piss off. Yeah. Like, not even a wristwatch or a locator or nothing.
Like in Mandalorian, I'm the armorer. There's another Star Wars thing in this movie. Attack of the Clones. Really? Attack of the Clones completely homages or rips this off. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
The scene with the tarantula. In the book, it's a centipede. And the centipede is what's trying to kill Padme in her sleep. It's very similar type sequence where I was like, oh, that's totally a Dr. No nod, I would think.
Well, and
Attack of the Clones. Yeah.
There have been no deaths ever from a tarantula bite. So, him freaking out and going ew and shuddering is fucking hilarious. If you know that, there's nothing poisonous about that. It's just your fear of spiders, and get yourself together, Bond. You're a British agent. The rear projection in the car stuff, going back to that, is a bit rough. I'm glad they got away from that. Way. Yeah. It doesn't look well. Even back then I would have been calling it out. It's just,
of course, yeah.
But
something like hyper ridiculous about how close they are to the pass.
Yes.
It's like, well, they were trying. They swung for it there.
I'm glad they got away from that and started doing the better stunts.
Yeah.
I think it's gotten a little ridiculous, the one-upsmanship that they even keep doing on themselves, but at the same time, they've pulled off some amazing stuff.
We get to invisible car that's radio controlled.
Yeah.
But not in this movie.
There's some bad ADR. That scene where he shoots the professor, there's some real bad ADR in there. I was like, ooh, that's bad. Like, you can really hear it.
Yeah, he's very Han Solo shooting first.
I love how they arrive on Crab Island and they're immediately like, oh, we've come to this weird island. Let's take a nap.
Yeah.
Where it's like, sure, that's what we'll do. Let's take a nap on this
Talking
weird
about
island.
taking naps on dirty floors.
That's a conversation our audience isn't privy to. We'll do that on Patreon sometime.
And it's funny when they arrive on that island and you meet Ursula Andress, and it's the classic
Honey
coming out of
Rider.
the water sequence, which later they
Mhm.
flipped with Daniel Craig coming out of the water. But there
Right.
was something else we watched a few weeks ago where somebody else came out of the water in a similar fashion. Do you remember that movie? That movie was 10.
Oh yeah, Bo Derek. That's
Well,
right.
what is the connection between these two? John Derek was married to Ursula Andress at
Really?
the time of Dr. No.
Wow.
Is that not weird? That's crazy. The weird little minutiae we pick up on by doing this show, and that iconic coming out of the water in both. So is 10 is clearly a nod to Dr. No in there.
Wow.
John Derek, how weird. I believe he was married to Linda Evans at one time too, right? You want to throw a Mitchell reference in there?
Linda Evans. Oh no. Patty Beers, Ursula Andress, Linda Evans, and Bo Derek. Wow.
Next week,
Oh,
Tarzan.
he's still married to Bo Derek.
Yep.
Interesting.
Wow, I don't think
Well,
he's alive anymore, though, is he?
looks like the fourth one took. Yeah, no, he died 98. You're right.
I was going to say.
Died married to her. Let's see here. So good thing Coral has a red shirt on. Makes it easy to hide in the jungle. That's all good. His hair was perfect. Awu Bond in Jamaica.
Mhm.
Those are my two jokes. You're welcome. So I'm an hour and 15 minutes into this movie, and I still really don't know what's going on. Like,
but you don't need to. In classic
the movie,
Bond class.
yeah, the movie has me in the palm of its hand. I'm interested. I'm engaged, but I don't know what the F is going on. I have no clue. Like, what is Dr. No doing? What does he want? What it's so okay.
He
There's
hasn't
something
come out and
about
revealed
missiles.
his plan yet.
Missiles going down, and there's a radar, and so hour 15, we still don't know what the plan is. We just know we need to investigate Dr. No.
Yeah.
It's almost like it reminds me a bit of oh goodness, Enter the Dragon.
Oh, totally. Even with his fake hands.
Where you get it, but you get in at the end though. It's like, oh, and finally when he enters the compound, that's when shit starts going down, and he figures out what's really up. Hour 23, I still don't know really what's going on.
Yeah, in future ones, they kind of correct that a little bit by when Bond first goes and meets with M. Oh, have you heard about the blah blah? Oh, of course I've heard about the blah blah. That's the thing where this does this and that, and if we don't do yes, and that is your assignment to blah 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 or some version.
Right, exactly.
And we haven't gotten to that kind of setup yet.
And finally, hour 23, hour 25, we meet Dr. No. And we've got like a total Tea House of the August Moon thing going on there. Which is just a Caucasian guy played an Asian guy. World domination, of course. That's okay. World domination. Okay, we got it. Thank you. And there's no, like you said, there's no Q in this movie, and that makes me sad.
Yeah, but you got to start somewhere. You get the armorer, though, and that's unique and bizarre. You get to see him throw his hat onto the rack for the first time. First money penny.
First money penny. You beat me to it. Yeah. It, like you said, all the basic elements that the other Bond films would build upon and borrow from, right? You're right. It was armorer now, but it's Q later. It's money penny now, but it's it keeps going. It's the car driving sequences with rear projection. Then suddenly it's big stunts.
Yeah.
It just keeps going and going and going.
That's why a lot of people say Goldfinger is kind of like the perfection when they get to that. I also really like the follow up, the From Russia with Love.
I remember not enjoying the pacing of Goldfinger. I'd be interested to watch it again. I enjoyed the pacing of this one a bit. I'm not complaining when I say I didn't know what was going on. Again, the movie had me in the palm of its hand. I'm following along. Yeah. It's just keeping things from you to a certain extent. Yeah. And I guess that's back in the day, that's what spy novels were like. I grew up more of like the Tom Clancy type where you're seeing the workings of the two sides and you're seeing what they're not seeing and what they are seeing and how that's all going to come to kind of clash. And then there's still a surprise in that. Right. But yeah, my other note is this movie is very riffable. Like you could put this movie on and you could probably riff the shit out of it pretty easily.
Yeah.
it's got a lot of that early 60s sci-fi pre-Star Trek type of gadgetry in it, because I feel like Star Trek really changed a lot of the way sci-fi rolled from that point on, as far as like making things look futuristic and gadgetry and stuff. This had a much more like late 50s 60s Art Deco kind of, room of the future at the fair type vibe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
not knocking it. I'm not knocking it at all. It's interesting the differences.
Yeah, it's funny. We're just 2 movies later, and Goldfinger, they're talking shit about the Beatles being noise, and you should listen to them through headphones. And yet, the Bond films themselves are the Beatles. They're game changers too. So,
Oh, that's an interesting take. Yeah, I can see that. Dr. No looks like Joel Grey and Remo Williams in The Adventure Begins, sir.
oh, totally. Well, that's more the influence. Even Inspector Gadget and the claw and all that, they're pulling deeply from this. And also that, like you mentioned earlier, the Thom of Pleasance and You Only Live Twice with the $1 million type spooky thing and the cat. And I'm sure we would find out as Blofeld, but that's a whole other discussion. So
one of the things I really liked about this, and I think that's kind of, especially in the 80s, 90s, that got over the top, was it's a very short fight sequence with Dr. No to end the movie. Yeah. Like, we don't have to sit there and watch the two of them for 5 minutes fight it out. It's boom,
when
boom,
movies
boom.
End, they end.
The hands betray him. Bond gets out. That's another thing I forgot to mention. I loved like the car wash automat thing when they get captured and they're being deradiated and they're just kind of going along the conveyor belt like the Jetsons and shit. Oh, dude, that was so great. I don't know why, but I was just like, oh, that's awesome. Maybe because it was like the Jetsons.
It's like there's a part where it's proto Die Hard to me, where he's crawling around in the vents or the tubes.
Very much.
And it's like, oh, did any action star ever crawl around in tubes or vents before this movie?
Oh, that's hilarious. So I appreciate the short fight sequence. I appreciate how the CIA doesn't show up until the end, of course. They're there to help, and then, of course, they're not.
Right. Felix is doing shit, as he usually does. At least he doesn't get his legs bit off by a shark in this movie, which happens to him in a later one. But don't worry, his legs regenerate in another Bond film. So that's how they do these things. They're loose continuity with each other.
Well, if we're going to harp on Felix's legs, we have to start harping on all the Bonds in particular. So the fact that this guy somehow is 40 years old is over 40 years old and is still in great shape and a perfect shot. And I found the movie enjoyable, dated, weird, and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
3.5 stars.
You go 3.5. I'm giving it 4. It's just without that one, somebody else would have done something, but it doesn't break through the same way. This laid down such a mold. Between this and all the way up through Thunderball, they really, with those first 4, it's like that's the templates.
Yeah, this one to me, it's a little lacking. Again, like we talked about, beautiful. The audio's a little weird.
Yeah, they get better, but this one's charming.
Yeah, this one is very charming, and 3.5 for me is good and rewatchable. So I think that's right on. I just can't go 4. I've got other things at 4 that I think are above this.
Yeah,
but good choice. I like that one. Which moves us to Dinner in America.
Dinner in America, a movie that was released in 2020, and unfortunately, nobody got to see anything in 2020. But now in 2025, it's getting a re-release,
revival.
A revival. They're actually showing it here in town for one day, but still, it's still getting shown.
Yep.
So, what on earth is Dinner in America?
Dinner in America, 2020. It doesn't have a rating, but I would definitely give it an R.
Yeah.
Directed by Adam Remeyer, starring Kyle Gallagher, Yancey Fuqua, and Jennifer Kinser. An on-the-lam punk rocker and a young woman obsessed with his band unexpectedly fall in love and go on an epic journey through America's decaying Midwestern suburbs. That's your log line.
Mm-hmm.
Which is and your storyline is exactly the same. I don't have much more for you on it, but
Yeah, there's not a lot of things written about this one that
uh-uh.
I can see. So the research was small, but that's okay because the movie gave me more than enough things to talk about.
I'm sure it did. Yeah, this was quite a watch for me.
Yeah, this was, you know, I put it on, I'm watching the first 5-10 minutes of it or so, and I'm like, well, I already fucking hate this. This is going to be a fucking chore, man. At one point, I paused it, and I looked at some of the reviews briefly, because I'm like, well, this is getting really high ratings, so what's going on here?
What am I
People
missing?
were saying things like clunky first act, and I'm like, oh, okay. It says like once the two mains actually do finally meet each other, we're off to the races, and I think they were right. But in the beginning, I was really off-put because this movie is kind of vile and gross and disgusting, and it's supposed to be, and it works to its advantage. That's what it is, but it's not for everyone. Yeah. But I kind of wish it was.
It's giving you it's giving you the middle finger for the first 30 minutes pretty hard, and that character Kyle Gallner's fantastic in this. He's fucking really good in this, and so is the young lady playing. Oh goodness, what's her name? Beth Hannah Marks. Patty. My bad, Patty. Emily Skeggs. She's fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of those movies, I think, that once you finish it, and then you go, if you were to watch it again or think about that first half hour is going to play so much different.
It's going to play so different
because you're understanding it now.
Yeah, I was with you. I started this movie and there's like 6 production houses on this fucking thing, and I'm like, that's not a good sign. I know you got to get the money somehow, but you give up a lot of shit sometimes when you got 6 production houses going. However,
it looks like they let them do what they needed to do.
Fucking Jesus! I mean, this guy Adam Remire, he
born in 71, man. He's older than us.
He's older than us. 52 fucking years old.
I'm like, this is somebody's 3rd movie, and they've been around a while, but now this is the one where they're starting to really get to express themselves in a way.
It's a hell of a start. He starts it off with a fucking bang. We're like right in here, like he's bitching at that guy because he's throwing up on that medication or whatever, and he's not, he's not going to get all the money.
Oh yeah, because he's earning money for his band by volunteering.
He's doing a drug trial, like Robert Rodriguez did to raise money for El Mariachi, and he doesn't get to do the full thing, so he doesn't get the full money. So what's he have to do? He has to take the money and flip it, buy drugs and flip the drugs to make the money he wants to make.
Yeah.
And
we see like, oh, is he a drug addict? No, he's buying it.
No, he's just flip it. And 7 minutes in, this movie is just weird. My note is I'm 7 minutes in and this movie's weird as fuck. Is this going to be a new movie about modern Midwestern urban decay? And it is completely. The movie is about the middle class and the kind of that classic fabric of society. To me, that classic Midwestern American dream, 2 kids, 2 kids, a dog, and a house and a driveway and 2 cars and all that shit. It's just complete, like where you could see that shit just falling apart before your very eyes. And then he, come at me, you cocksucker, and lights the place on fire, and it's like, my God. He goes after the mom, starts making out with him, and
Leah Thompson, the mom of the
Leah Thompson, yeah.
And so he goes back to this house with this person who was in the study as well, the drug trial.
She's like, come to dinner, and I'll suck your so and so afterwards.
And her family are just these sports obsessed fucking jock
weirdos,
and the mom's like this cougar who's like, I like his haircut. And then everything's just so weird and like as if we're watching some version of SLC Punk. He lights the house on fire,
but it's important the way that it happens because it's really not his fucking fault.
Exactly.
Like the mom is into him, drags him into a room and grabs him and starts making out with him. And the daughter finds him, starts screaming at the mom, and starts this fight. And the dad finds out that he's been making out with his wife and basically tries to beat his ass. And he ends up
She
he
turns
ends up
on him.
jumping. He ends up jumping through the living room window, and now it's his fault. It's not this dysfunctional, fucked up family that the strangers come into. It's the stranger's fault.
Yeah.
And so the only thing he can do is set the front of the house on fire to kind of give himself some distance and get away. And then, of course, it's all turned into he's a pyromaniac. He's insane, blah, 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 blah. And so it's fantastic. I like the way that they do that because you root for him.
Mm-hmm.
But society's not gonna, right?
Yeah.
And at one point, then of course you get a hobo taking a shit soon after, and the shooting hoop scene, and you're just like, what is this movie doing?
Like, what am I watching here?
Mm-hmm.
But then we discover that he's the singer of this popular punk band, and nobody knows who the singer's real identity is. But the movie kind of lets us in on knowing that he's this guy. And then we, somewhere along the line, we're introduced to the Patty character early on, right?
Yeah, we find out she's working at a pet store, and she's pretty weird. And she's 20 and is kind of like trapped in she's 20, but she's like trapped being 16 or something. Like her parents and everything treat her like she's much younger. But she's into punk rock in this band called John Q. Public, and the lead singer wears a mask on stage, so nobody knows who he is, and that's, of course, Kyle Gallner's character.
Mm-hmm. Of PsyOps.
That's that scene where she's having dinner, and then she goes into her room, puts the music on, and then starts to masturbate and takes pictures of her genitalia.
And I'm going, what am I
fucking watching?
But it all makes sense.
It all pays off. It pays off, but in the beginning, and I started laughing when that old lady sat next to him on the bus, and he was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" That's when I realized, lean into this shit. Just lean into it and go with the movie because it's going to take you somewhere. And because it just keeps getting weirder and weirder and weirder. And the movie in the end is about two weird people and the complete weirdness that ensues from their meeting and eventual connection.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what the movie's about. Insane.
And so we find out that she's like the biggest fan of that band, and she's sending these Polaroids along with these letters to the singer.
She's sending him love letters and pictures of herself naked.
And it's never her face.
Right.
It's
so he
just
doesn't
these
know.
shots of these Polaroids, so he doesn't know who she is either.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to wonder, this has got to be set in the past, right? Because there's a rotary phone at one point, but then there's things that feel modern. And then, much like you said, you just lean into it. It's an out of time.
Yeah.
It's then, it's now. That's why all the assholes in the movie constantly say words that aren't politically correct nowadays, because I think they represent the 80s aesthetic of the assholes.
I think that still goes on. I mean, I don't think.
Yeah, but it's still out of time in a way.
Yeah. In the suburbs where it's middle class and upper middle class, and you're weird or different, you still get get shit for that. I love the fact that he tries to defend her. Don't call her a retard, and those two guys beat the shit out of him.
Oh right, yeah.
And he fucking dude. Oh my god, man! The
like
payback that he gets
vengeance.
is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Yeah. That was one of the things where many movies amalgamed into the making of this movie through this filmmaker's subconscious. And I felt like Heather's was one of them in there a little bit with that My Bodyguard type thing there. But what happens after he lights that house on fire? Well, sometime after, he's running, trying to find a place to stay because the cops are after him and he's got to not get arrested before the show, which he doesn't want to play anyways because his band members set it up and it feels like it's a big sellout.
Well, because they're open for some shitting band, the Alliance. Yeah,
funny because if you remember, Ray and Chris's band was called Alliance back in the '80s. Their buddy
That's
back in
great.
the day, so that made me laugh. And then he ends up the two meet. He runs into Patty, and she covers for him when the cops come by, and so they immediately have some kind of weird connection with each other. And she takes him home, and so he gets to hold up there. But that's when he eventually sees the Polaroids and the envelopes, and he freaks the fuck out and he runs out.
everything coalesces but he doesn't run out. He goes to check on shit, and then he comes back. He's trying to he's going, because that's when he goes to meet his band and tell them
That's true.
we're not playing this fucking gig and blah blah blah. And he realizes the only place he's got to stay is back at her place, because remember, he's convinced her parents that his parents are missionaries and they're
he
in
likes
town
her
and
parents.
they need
It's
a place
different
to
than the
stay.
asshole parents. Yeah. And
Yeah.
what about Bob fashion? He comes in, he immediately is the interloper who assesses what's wrong with everybody.
Yeah.
He even gets the young uptight son. He teaches him how to smoke pot. You need to smoke a gram of this every day for the rest of your life.
A day, dude.
Yeah, am I
like
gonna
you're
get,
an asshole.
Get addicted? Well, hopefully. Hopefully. He changes that guy's life. So it's like one of those classic interloper stories. He makes her parents happier as well. This movie, it's kind of like how The Late Game was like an amalgam of movies from the early aughts. This is another version of that with maybe a slightly bigger budget because it feels a little larger.
I like what the movie, one of the things I like more than anything about the movie is that it had something to say to a certain extent. And it did so by basically creating, that guy is unflinching.
Yeah.
He has his morals and he's not fucking straying from them for a second. And he doesn't really give a crap that his morals are different than your morals. He does. And I don't mean in like I kill people or whatever type of moral, but like a societal morals of I'm eschewing a lot of that bullshit. I'm pushing it away. It's probably one of the best punk rock movies about punk rock and being punk rock that I have seen. And one of my first thoughts was, this fucker's going straight into the punk rock movie pantheon. Has to. Right along SLC Punk, Suburbia, Decline of Western Civilization. This movie has to be in the conversation. It absolutely has to be. It's that good and that punk rock, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it changes the game also with that too, by the other things that it pulls into it. Yeah.
Do you think I'm cool? I just said no. Do you think I'm weird? Oh yeah, you're fucking weird.
Right. So like he helps her, punk rock guy Simon. He helps Patty, the quiet girl, get her last paycheck back. Stands up to the tracksuit assholes.
Yep.
They start to develop a little bit more of a thing for each other. They have a great scene when they actually go to have dinner, which he said what they were going to do. I'm going to get your money, and then we're going to
go on to date. That's the poster of the movie too.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I love that where they're making out in the restaurant. And he just turns around. He knows he's being watched. Just flips his ladies off. Mind your own fucking business. This guy. I love this guy so much.
And so we're thinking, like, is he going to make it to his show? Right? Is he going to get arrested, or is this going to be like a Harold and Maude? Like, they fit, but is it going to be your typical sad ending? But this one's different because it's a music movie, that the ending coalesces when this almost famous type band infighting, more of that early aughts kind of influence rolled in. And then what this film does is, this movie had the fucking nerve, the audacity to do Ghost World with a happy ending. And I love it for it.
I do too.
This movie is like, it's Ghost World mixed with SLC Punk by way of Napoleon Dynamite a little bit. There's a scene in Ghost World where Enid decides to go into a punk rock phase. She dyes her hair green. She's all doing the leather jacket and shit. And then she gets ridiculed by her friends and peers because none of them understand her anyways. She's an island in that movie. She never has anybody to connect with. And so she turns the buzzcocks off and puts all that away. And then the rest of the movie happens. This movie, it's like as if we get to that part and then this punk rocker shows up and is like, you know what? No. Fuck all this. We're artists. We aren't in this world. So it's like this bittersweet, happy version of that where it twists all that around. And it's like, wow, it was it's one of the best things I've seen in quite some time.
I completely agree. It's total anti-hero, this rough world that this film creates, and I don't mean to be trite when I say this. It's when punk rock Harry met autistic Sally in a weird way.
All right, but she's not even.
She's not even autistic.
Right?
It's not
she's
even.
Just,
yeah.
she's just so.
She's so closed off and so
She doesn't know the things, right? But when she knows them, then she's not right. She's not dumb. She just has no life experience at all.
Yeah. She's been so sheltered and so scared, and she's a gifted musician. Yeah, she's
wait a minute. No, she's
a gifted lyricist.
You're punk as fuck. That's what's going on here,
and that's what he's telling her.
Yeah,
you're fucking punk as fuck. What are you talking about? It's bizarre. It's funny. It's sad. It's weird. It's strange. I like it and I don't like it, and then I love it and I don't love it. But in the end, I really, really love it. Like I would love to sit down at dinner with this guy and just tell him how much I love this film.
And he's made another movie since.
Yeah, it's. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Yeah.
I'm very curious about that one. Like Shake.
Is that
Shack.
Bottle Rocket? Shake Shack. Yeah.
Bottle Rocket's the
Sean Baker. Yeah. I'm thinking of Red Rocket.
Red Rocket. Jesus. Yeah. And Red Rover.
It's always leaning. The film's always leaning back into this great sense of sort of surrealism or absurdity. There's just this great, just enough to make you laugh and keep you going, because otherwise it's watching these people, such a bleak picture.
And it's very
at the same time they rise above everything that they're doing, and it is super awkward. It makes you feel awkward.
Like movies like American Pie from 25 years ago, really starting to make the gross out humor more of the norm. And now I guess audiences today just kind of expect the gross out thing to be part of it. It's part of the sauce. Me, I'm still old and sensitive where I go, oh, that's disgusting. But maybe somebody else would watch this and be like, no, it's not, it's gross, but it doesn't bother me the way it bothers you, kind of, I don't know.
I love it when he tells her he's John Q. Like I love it. I love that so much.
Yeah. And then when she sings the song and she actually moves him to tears, this hard
that's
fucking
that's
punker.
the stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's the stuff.
It's like the movie keeps going up another half as I'm watching it, and I'm like, well, it's not going to go any it went further again.
Yep.
And it's just like,
if you get into this type of movie and this is the type of movie that speaks to you, there's an emotional level. Like you said, his crying when she's singing, him saying you're punk as fuck. It's a very good, very weird romantic comedy set amongst the Midwestern urban decay of life. It's fantastic.
The way it ends with "How dare you be this hopeful" movie?
Yes.
He's in the back of the fucking cop car, and it's like, oh, that's even punk too. And she's loving this shit. And now she's getting respect.
She brings him the cigarette so he can smoke it. I love how he makes that cigarette. Gallner's so good about making that cigarette a part of his character. Always shoving that 100 into his mouth, that 100 into his mouth over and over again. It's too bad you have to go to prison to have a good dinner in America, man.
I might have come up with 10 albums worth of material in here. It also reminded me of Heartbreak Hotel. You remember that? Where they abduct Elvis and then Elvis changes their lives, right? Because he's that interloper character. But you know what else it reminds me of? The Greasy Strangler. Because it looks just as good as that movie. You wouldn't expect the Greasy Strangler to look that good, but that's just more, it's like awkward, but it's a horror version. But it's that same type of kind of like, you made a quirky weird. It's not nearly as good as this, but it still reminded me of kind of like, oh yeah, you did one of those Napoleon Dynamite type. What's the other movie that they cite for this one? Like, it's about a cheerleader. It's a Natasha Lyonne movie.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it's those early awkward, Welcome to the Dollhouse, that type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And this I feel like somehow in this director's subconscious, this writer-director subconscious, merged all these things together. Apparently, it was two different stories.
Oh, it's
about
Welcome
the guy,
to the Dollhouse.
Yeah, it was about the guy selling himself for money to the experiments, and then there was the other story about the family, and then he kind of merged those two, and then we're off to the races at that point.
Well, and I thought it was fascinating the way he did the song that she did, where he waited until she was there, and then they went together and co-wrote this song together, and he encouraged her to kind of dig into that character and come up with, like a tauntaun in my eardrum is a great lyric. That's a great lick, man. I really fucking enjoyed this movie, and I'm glad you did, because I was like, I was literally prepared to sit here and go, dude, I'm sorry, I love you, but you're so wrong.
If you don't like this movie, then I don't know, maybe you're its target.
yeah, that's the only thing I can. I mean, look, Gylner's character is abrasive, and he's not likable.
I get it.
For a while.
It's going to be too gross for some people,
but eventually he becomes. You start rooting so hard for him and her, so hard. And there's that. I love that scene when they're playing the show. He's playing the show as John Q, and she's there, and the shots start whittling it down, the audience and him on stage, and still it's just him and just her. And you can tell that's the only world for the two of them at that moment. Is just there is nobody else at that show. So good.
Yeah, it's bound to go down as one of the all-timer romantic movies. It's going to keep growing and finding its audience,
Yeah, it's like oh my God, why am I having so much trouble with the Harold and Maude? It reminds me just like this weird romantic.
There's
comedy
no age difference, but there's that awkward.
No, there's that. It's that weird, awkward sort of rom-com where. And one of a kind. I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it.
By merging so many things together, he really created something completely brand new.
Completely new, yeah.
And it has Gail the Snail from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in it. She's Patty's mother.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that, and I'm glad this movie's getting a revival, and I'm glad it's getting eyes on it again, because I'm shocked that this thing did not. And I feel like if this come out 2017, 2022, this movie does a hell of a lot better in the landscape. It really sucks that Adam kind of is the timing of the film was like that.
Yeah,
it really stinks.
Unfortunate. But I'm glad I'm getting to see it now.
Yeah, same.
There's a Bobcat Goldthwait movie called God Bless America that I haven't seen that some people were saying kind of was reminiscent as well, but those people go on a natural born killers type spree where they decide to kill all the assholes of the world apparently, but it's more of that us against everybody. But that's why I compared it to Ghost World, because that's like she doesn't have anybody, everybody she keeps running into is the normies, and but in this movie it's kind of like what if fucking punk rock person showed up right then and said, you know what, fuck them all. We don't have to deal with this. And it was like,
shook your whole world apart.
And I guess after 20 years of these movies all being in the sauce and being swirled up so much, you start to get the thing like this out of it, and made by a guy who's older than us. So it tells you that the older you get as a filmmaker, the better the stuff you can do.
I agree.
We're hitting our 50s now, and it's like, hey, maybe we're at the point where we can make something that's
really awesome, really amazing.
Because you just don't have that life experience when you're 20. Although some 20-year-olds can make some great fucking films, but you know what I mean.
No, absolutely.
Ones are made by the older people, it seems. So.
Sometimes, yeah. Sean Baker's out there doing great work, and I'm glad. I'm glad that this podcast we're doing this, because I've exposed myself to this film, and
yeah, I wouldn't have seen this.
What a terrible way to put it. But I would never have watched this. I don't think. I mean, I saw Kyle Gallner. I follow him now on X, but I saw him talking about this on X and talking about its revival, and I thought, this movie's 4 years old. Like, why? And so I had to go see it, and I thought, well, let's bring it on the show, and we'll suffer together if it's terrible. But it was so damn good.
Yeah, and for cynical me to be won over and over again to something that started I didn't like, that says a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah, it does that on purpose. You start to realize
Does
it's
it on
doing that on
purpose,
purpose.
yeah.
Everything that it's doing is with clear intent.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's trying to show you that, right away he gets mixed up with a screwed up family, and
And we meet his family later after they record the song. We see he's got a crazy.
Of course, his family's
too.
rich. Yeah, of course, his family's rich as hell. Yeah, that was an interesting piece of it too. God, that movie's good.
Yeah,
really good. There's an interesting piece of trivia here from IMDb. The picture in the porno mag that the clerk shows Simon and comments on is actually of Demi Moore from the early 80s. So why the hell you drag that out and put it in the film, I have no idea, but that's hilarious.
My.
Yeah. Now, here's why I gave Dr. No 3.5 stars. This for me is a 4-star movie. I can't put this on the same level as Dr. No. This is doing more than Dr. No is doing on a lot of
course this is doing more than Dr. No. This is doing more than most movies. This is probably one of the best movies I've watched for the pod. This is 5 stars.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yes, the movie kept getting better and better and better, that it negated everything that I disliked about it in the beginning and made it good. And just when I thought it was going to end at 4.5, it pushed it all the way to 5. So 5 stars.
Wow.
Because I know the more I think about it and the more time goes on, it might not be something I want to watch all the time because it's a weird watch, but it's so good. And it's
every time it comes on.
And wow. Just wow.
Yeah.
And I was even thinking about that Herzog thing before watching these movies and getting myself hyped up. And then I watched both of these and I was kind of like, do it.
Yeah, I may even be a little low on my 4. But I'm going to stick with it. I reserve. This is one I'm going to think about, and I may reserve the right to update my score at the end in our yearly review, and probably go 4.5 easily.
Yeah. So find it, watch it. It's good.
Find it, watch it.
And stick with it. Because even if
don't
you
let it throw you.
Disgusting for a while, the next thing you know, you're half hour in, and once the characters meet each other, that's when it's really off to the races.
Yeah. And the moment that she tells him she's in love with John Q, the entire movie shifts. It begins that shift, and you're like, oh yes, here we go. That's so good. So good.
And the whole thing of like, you don't want him to take advantage of her, but it wouldn't be anyway, and that it all plays out the way it's supposed to. So.
And you realize he never would. Like he wouldn't. He's not going to take. That's, I don't know what it is that he recognizes in her, but once you realize that he sees it in her, he's not going to. He means her no harm at all. And in fact, like a lot of times, like when she said, "Do you think I'm cool or do you think I'm weird?" He goes, "Yeah, you fucking weird." He looks at her and goes, "I'm fucking with you."
Oh yeah, they love to do that.
And you realize he really means it. He's just messing with her. He's not trying to be. Some people do that, and they're actually trying to get an insult at you and sort of act like they're. And I'm what? Don't you have a sense of humor? You realize he's really like, dude, I'm fucking with you. You're cool as fuck. You're punk as fuck. So good.
What I really like was, is this provocative? And he's like, I don't know what the fuck that is. There's some really funny lines in there.
There really is. There really is, man. When he gets his butt kicked by those 2 runner guys,
right? Because you think, he's gonna beat him up, right?
He's gonna beat him up, and they just whip his ass. Yep, so good. Oh man!
What a very over-the-top revenge they did to those guys. They'll be with you for the rest of your life.
So good.
And you go, oh, that's horrendous, but it's punk as fuck.
It is punk as fuck. Won't do that again.
And the use of Polaroids, and that's why it feels so out of time. Nobody's ever on a smartphone or anything, and flyers for the bands.
I kind of like that because I think it makes it more timeless.
Yes.
Like if you see an iPhone 13, you know what year that is forever. You know what I mean? So I kind of like that. But having said that, that was great, man. I mean, that was 2 really, like I said, that was 2 really enjoyable movies for I mean, that was an easy week, man.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there'll be more like that.
Well, let's see. What do you got for me next week?
I don't have any real snoozers coming up, I don't think.
I have some weird ones that we have to get to.
No,
So
I got some weird ones.
I got some weird ones we're going to have to get to, so we might as well get to them.
So your movie next week is let's go back to the 70s. Let's go back to
the
1978.
Okay.
And as we're winding up season 2, there's more of those movies I wanted to get into the beginning of the show, the early seasons. And much like starting Bond, and we finally got a Bond movie in there. Now it's time for Up in Smoke. I'm gonna watch a Cheech and Chong movie finally.
Watch a stoner movie, huh?
Most people would have thought I'd pick that on week 1, perhaps, but it took all the way until now, and now we're finally going to watch that one. That should be a nice, easy watch, unless, of course, you're looking at his neck.
Easy breezy cover girl.
And I was not looking at his neck.
I wasn't looking at his neck, man. Okay. Huh. Well, that's okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Interesting. All right, you're going to the 70s. Let's go to the 80s then. I got this movie. It took me a minute to find it. It took me actually a long time to find it. And I think we should probably watch it. So I'm going to give you Heart Like a Wheel.
Oh.
Which is a sleeper hit that was on cable in the 80s. And it is about Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney, who is the first NHRA woman to drag race in the NHRA professionally. And she ended up being a very big competitor of Big Daddy Don Garlitz, who was kind of top of the heap in the Top Fuel dragster world. So
it's quite possible you could have seen these two at a drive-in at one point. So
maybe
playing together. Did you know the older movie would be playing with the newer movie?
Yeah,
I just feel like this is a perfect late 70s, or I should say early 80s.
This one, I remember watching this one a lot because my dad was an amateur car racer for a long time, and mechanic, and so this was one of the only movies, other than a few others, that were about cars or whatever. Other than like Days of Thunder, some shit like that. So anyway, supposed to be a true story.
That I'm giving you a comedy. I heard somebody on a pod say, like, horror and comedy, the reason they don't get a lot of awards is because they don't need critics, because you're either scared or you're not, or you laugh or you're not, right? And it's like, well, we're going to figure out things to talk about Up in Smoke last week. So I guess you can. I think there is a little bit more to comedy and horror than that. But I did like that concept, though, where it's kind of like, those two genres really do come down to personal taste more than anything.
Yeah, I think so.
And stoners seem to love Cheech and Chong, so we'll see if this one holds up.
Stoners love Cheech and Chong.
Straight edge people like me and Cliff.
The first Cheech and Chong I ever saw was when I was 12. We snuck into my friend's dad was not home. We snuck into his house, and his dad had recorded it wasn't Up in Smoke, Next Movie on VHS.
Oh, nice. My personal favorite still.
We recorded it off, and we laughed our asses off. We thought that was the funniest shit ever.
Yeah.
So maybe it's also for 12-year-olds. Stoners and 12-year-olds.
Right.
All right, man. Till next week then, I guess.
Next week.
All right, man. What?
You need to take it down a notch.
You're punk as fuck, Marty. Later.
Wait. Support the show on Buzzsprout for only $3 a month. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify or the platform of your choice. And be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube page.